Hello, I'm Seafood Source editor Sean Murphy, and welcome to another edition of Seafood Source TV, the bi-weekly video blog where we bring you news, information, and insights from the world of the seafood industry. Here in the United States, one major factor that shapes the future of the American economy is an aging generation making way for younger people, growing into that key demographic sought out by retailers, restaurateurs, and other mass market businesses. As Seafood Source contributor Christine Blank is reporting in the latest issue of our sister publication, Seafood Business Magazine, the huge and influential baby boom generation that took the country by storm in the decades following World War II has since made way for the subsequent Generation X. That group, in turn, is now making room for the newest group of consumers, commonly referred to as Millennials. To date, they numbered approximately 77 million, and they have hit that coveted 20 to 35-year-old age bracket. What does the latest generational shift mean for the seafood industry? Well, here to discuss that with us in some detail is Lynsee Fowler, Communications Coordinator at the National Fisheries Institute, which has been following this trend. She joins us via Skype from the Institute's offices in McLean, Virginia. Lynsee, good to have you here with us again.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
Well, as I said, 77 million people hitting that 20 to 35-year-old age gap. That's a pretty serious influence over the markets. How does that compare, do you think, to some of the influence from the past generations, like the baby boomers or Generation X?
Yeah, so at the Global Seafood Market Conference, the NPD group presented some interesting data that showed millennials, more than any other generational groups, are very influential in a sense that they're a lot more willing to voice their opinions and give recommendations and suggestions based on their own experiences. And they're also a lot more willing to make choices based on suggestions and recommendations they receive from their peers. So in that sense, marketing towards them is very influential because you kind of have this exponential component. When they enjoy something, say seafood at a new restaurant or a new seafood product and the retail side of things, they're a lot more likely to tell other people about it, who are then more likely to try it themselves, and kind of a whole circle of events.
Sounds like that it's an offshoot or a byproduct of the whole social media generation. Everybody wants to talk about what they found and listen to what other people have found as well.
Yes, exactly. So it's beyond just telling their roommate or their peer about it. It's writing on Yelp or writing about it on Twitter. So you then have people that might be going to a new city looking for a seafood restaurant who just search, seafood restaurant Austin, Texas on Twitter, and they're seeing reviews from people. And this group of millennials are actually vetting through these, and they're really making decisions based on suggestions, which is provides a lot of potential for seafood restaurants.
Now, something else I thought was interesting that Christine had in her story, I know you guys have talked about this as well, is that another big motivator for millennials, maybe more so than previous generations, is the health benefits and maintaining a healthy diet. This seems to be a bit of a shift away from some of the previous generations. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, that's true. And in general, a lot more people are interested in eating more healthfully, which is great. And the research presented by the NPD group found some really interesting statistics that millennials are looking for these health-forward attributes in foods, whereas groups like boomers are looking for these avoidance attributes. And what that means is that millennials are looking for these foods that are full of healthful attributes, full of vitamins, high protein, high omega-3s, whereas boomers are looking to avoid the bad things. So they're looking for low sodium, low cholesterol. And when you look at seafood, which has, is chock full of essential vitamins and nutrients and omega-3s and protein, there's so much they can do with that to market it to millennials who really are looking for these superfood lists, these foods that are just full of positive things. So for restaurants and retail alike, that's very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too, I think we should mention is cost as well and price, because contrary to previous generations, I think the millennials have been a little bit more influenced by the economy. They've come up and they've been witnessing more so than other generations have some of the really rough times. So that's a factor too, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. The NPD group's research showed that in 2007, millennials were eating 22% of their meals away from home. And in 2012, the last year they have data for that, they were eating 18% away from the home. And a lot of this does have to do with price. It's just less expensive to eat at home. But this doesn't necessarily mean that they're cooking from scratch. They're going to retail and grocery stores and they're looking at these prepared foods and these value-added foods. So think there's a lot of potential there. And again, value doesn't only mean cost. A lot of that does encompass cost, but it also looks at convenience and health benefits and the experience. So I think, as reported in seafood business, actually, this generation, the millennials, are ones that are looking for value more than any other generations because they were hit very hard by the recession.
And what sort of value-added products have you guys maybe seen an interest in? Is it frozen versus prepackaged meals? I mean, are you seeing any kind of data like that, or is it just more of an overall trend toward value-added?
Yeah, really an overall trend with the thought process that someone can come home from work, they went to the gym, they might be getting home later, and throw in something, a frozen seafood meal into the oven, put in a load of laundry, and 15 minutes later, that meal is ready to go on the table. So whether, the exact attributes and details we're not as familiar with, but just in general, the idea of convenience and really packaging in price, convenience, health benefits, the flavor, that's really what they're looking at. And similarly to restaurants, they're also very influential there. Other research shows that millennials are a lot more likely than other generations to go grocery shopping together. And, if they have a friend who is in the frozen aisle and says, oh, this cooks in 20 minutes, it's full of omega-3s, it's really easy, it's really flavorful, they're also a lot more likely to put it in their cart. So kind of have the perfect storm of different things there.
Do you think that translates into restaurants as well, where you have millennials going out to a restaurant in a group and maybe there's, I don't want to say peer pressure, but there's peer encouragement to try different things or try that seafood dish on the menu that maybe a previous generation person might be more willing to step back from?
Yes. In general, millennials are proven to be more adventurous eaters, and they're more willing to try new things, which is great because fish and seafood typically thought as a menu item that is a little more adventurous. And the NPD group found that I think it was 32% of the time millennials are more likely to order a seafood dish if their dining partner also ordered a seafood dish, compared to 15% of boomers who are willing to do the same. So, the contrast is pretty stark, and it shows that this is a group that really is influenced by what their peers next to them are putting on their plates on the restaurant side as well.
Okay, Lynsee Fowler, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate this.
Thanks.
That's Lynsee Fowler. She's the communications coordinator for the National Fisheries Institute. And if you want to learn more about millennials and what millennials are eating and what they may be choosing in the seafood world, be sure to check out the newsletter that NFI has been putting out, Hooked. They've been talking about this issue. They also have a link to a video that NFI has produced where they talk to a local restaurant in Washington, D.C. and talk again about some of the choices that millennials might be making in the restaurants. And of course, you can also check out the latest edition of Seafood Business Magazine to read Christine's story in full to learn even more. And as always, check back here in 2 weeks for another edition of Seafood Source TV, where we will bring you more news, information, and insights into the world of the seafood industry. Till then, I'm Seafood Source editor Sean Murphy saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you online.